Good evening and welcome to tonight's Undaunted. I am Tabitha Ako. Let's begin. As the world came together yesterday to observe World Menstrual Hygiene Day, celebrating the right of every woman and girl to manage her period with dignity, the situation in Ambazonia stands in stark, painful contrast. For the women and girls of this embattled land caught in the crossfire of an 8-year war waged by the oppressive regime of La République du Cameroon, the day was not one of awareness but of agony. In Ambazonia, where the cries for freedom continue to be met with bullets and brutality, menstruation has become yet another silent battlefield. For thousands of internally displaced women and girls across the Savannah, Midland, and Atlantic zones, the war has stolen more than homes and livelihood. It has stripped them of their most basic rights to privacy, dignity, and health. This is not just a crisis or a war of conflict. It is a deliberate humanitarian strategy where supply chains are shattered and safe havens have been replaced with overcrowded camps that offer no comfort, no sanitation, and no security. Now, amidst the gunfire and ghost towns, young Ambazonian girls are forced to confront their womanhood with no access to sanitary pads, clean water, or private facilities. Many resort to using dirty rags or unsanitary substitutes that expose them to infections and unimaginable discomfort. This is not just a public health issue, it is a gross violation of human rights. And yet, the world remains largely silent, while humanitarian agencies scramble to provide dignity kits. In some areas, they are few and far between, never enough to meet the overwhelming need. Now, the war has rendered most aid inconsistent, and the La République du Cameroon government continues to frustrate efforts meant to reach Ambazonian territories. For young girls, the consequences are even more devastating. Education, a fundamental pillar of empowerment, has become a distant dream. With no access to menstrual products and no safe spaces in schools, many girls stay at home during their periods, leading to chronic absenteeism and an ever-widening gender gap in education. In a region already crippled by school shutdowns and military violence, menstruation has become yet another barrier to a future once promised. Today, we shed light on this hidden war within a war. As we speak truth to power, we remind the world that the struggle for Ambazonian freedom is also the fight for the dignity of our women, for their health, their voices, and their rightful place in the nation we are building. And well, with this, we head on to the prime headlines on tonight's Undaunted. Ambazonian women face menstrual health challenges amidst war. Bamenda's oppressor, Colonial Zambo Nguema, meets end. Colonial governor decries security situation in Bamenda. American prisoner released as Biya bows to pressure from Trump's administration. And in news across Africa, South African mother, 2 others gets life sentences for selling 6-year-old girl. Also, Namibia holds first Genocide Remembrance Day, renews call for German reparations. And on news across the globe, Elon Musk quits Trump's government team but says Dodge will go on. Glacier collapse devastates Swiss village as climate threat looms. And with this, we head on to the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. World Menstrual Hygiene Day is a moment when we globally acknowledge the importance of menstrual health. But for thousands of women and girls in Ambazonia's war-stricken nation, this day spotlights a harsh reality. The ongoing 8-year-long war has made managing menstruation incredibly difficult, especially as getting basic hygiene products and having safe places to manage their periods remain a critical challenge. The war in Ambazonian savanna, midland, and Atlantic zones has forced millions of people to flee their homes since 2016. This long-running war, rooted in the Ambazonian grievances about feeling sidelined by the predominantly French-speaking La République du Cameroon's government, has created a severe humanitarian situation. Within this war, the impact on women's menstrual health is a distinct and pressing issue directly linked to the broader challenges faced by the southern Cameroonian population. Now, a major problem is the scarcity of menstrual hygiene products. The conflict has completely disrupted supply chains due to fighting, roadblocks, and general insecurity. This means that sanitary pads and tampons are either impossible to find in affected areas or they are too expensive for people already struggling financially because of the crippling war. We are seeing reports of women having to use desperate alternatives like cloth scraps, leaves, or even grass. These methods increase the risks of infections and discomfort, adding to the health issues already burdening the Ambazonian people. While humanitarian groups are distributing dignity kits with hygiene items, the supplies only scratch the surface of the huge need in these areas. Beyond the lack of affordable products, the war has utterly devastated sanitation infrastructure. Many homes are gone and safe. Private places to manage periods are simply not available in the displacement camps or makeshift shelters where Ambazonian families have found temporary refuge. This lack of privacy forces women and girls to manage their periods in the open, which is not only humiliating but also puts them at greater risk. Without clean water and soap for washing, proper hygiene becomes an impossible task. This situation also stops them from participating in daily life, including school for girls. So sad. Many report missing classes entirely during their periods because there's nowhere proper to go and the fear judgment. These, of course, affect the education of a generation already dealing with school boycotts and insecurity from the war. Well, on tonight's Undaunted, joining me in the studio tonight is our renowned legal practitioner, Barrister Mbeseha, who will offer his reflections on the devastating toll this conflict continues to exact on the lives of Ambazonian, not just Ambazonians, women and girls. Good evening, sir. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me once more.
Well, let's begin by addressing what so many often overlook. Yesterday was World Menstrual Hygiene Day. But here in Ambazonia, it was a sober reminder of our people's suffering. Barrister, what do these conditions say about the wider humanitarian impact of this war, particularly on our women, girls, and children?
Well, the absence of menstrual health care is actually pertinent, not because we're Amazonian, but because it affects every single woman at a certain age range, be they citizens of the Republic of Cameroon, be they at war, or be they in peacetime. The issue is why should women go through this? If there's a government in place, because menstrual issues cut across the board, they don't identify who is a CPD and woman. They don't identify who is in the opposition. So all women suffer the same effect. All females of a certain age range. So if there was a government in place, anything called government, that can be represented in councils, that can be represented at the level of the village, this is something that they should be able to do without any prior consideration. Because the women are found in every village, they are found in every city, they are found everywhere. And you've talked of the things being expensive and not available sometimes. But these things are not expensive. A reasonable government should provide these things free of charge. There's no reason why a woman going through a menstrual cycle cannot walk into a clinic and have those parts given to her for nothing. And what does it cost? The money they steal at one event can provide menstrual products for years to so many women. And so it is the absence of government, it is the absence of responsibility, it's the thing that should not be cautioned. Should this ever have arisen in Southern Cameroon or Ambazonia? It should not. Because again, I think in terms of population, the women form, they are about 52% of the population. So they are the majority. And so these women, wherever they find themselves, should be able to influence the political system. The political system that's in place should listen to them. But the peculiar issue with Ambazonian women is this. Those in the villages are suffering. But what of those who have escaped as internally displaced to big cities like Douala, like Yaoundé, like Bafoussam? What is going on there? There's no government over there. We heard about civil society. What is this government doing to assist even those who are internally displaced? A woman who has escaped from her house, she has no food to eat with her children. She will certainly have no money to buy those products. And so one would have thought that even in that country, if there was a civil society for women, they would have taken that thing as a cause. At the very least, to provide those women who are internally displaced with those products. At least to provide the human rights groups that go around trying to help people in the villages, in the camps, to provide those basic things. If the government cannot help them, at least human rights groups should help them. Because it's an issue of human rights. As a woman, you have some basic human rights to be taken care of in that cycle because it goes through every single woman I've said of a certain age range. And so the fact that this government is not doing it, none of the civil society is doing it, even with the internally displaced within their own cities. It's just the reason why we must fight this thing. Because we live in a state where there's no governance. And of course, a good number of those women, I say they're 52, 51%, they are a part of the economy. They sell plantains on the road. They sell cocoyams. They sell everything they can find, which is part of the economy. They pay taxes. And so why should they go through this? It is total neglect or deliberate punishment for them. It were not punishment. I've not seen those people who claim to be that normalcy has returned, carry boxes of parts, sell to those their councillors, or to their chiefs that they have made their slaves. They say, Chief, take these parts and give them to the women of your village. They've not done it. The woman will not take it for pleasure. The woman takes a part to go and keep in the house. If you're no longer in the menstrual cycle, you will not take it. So it's not something they should complain about. It's a necessity which should be provided by the government through their agencies, councils, even their so-called chiefs. What are they doing? In terms of chiefs, let me say, for example, in our northern zone, our chiefs have several wives. Does this chief with 10, 5, 20 wives not know that his wives go through this problem? But whereas he goes clapping hands to the governor, dancing before the CPDM meeting, I see some women going there perhaps even to march in CPDM organization without even the part in their backs. And so it's shameful, it's regrettable, it should never happen to a woman, it should never happen to our girls. Over to you.
Barrister Mbeseha, you've rightly said. Well, we have other international aids coming on board, but then, according to this report, it's not still satisfying this warring situation that our women and girls are facing. So what do you have to say to our women? We believe the stance that says women support women. So what do you have to say to other women, just like you stated much earlier? What do you have to say to them so they can encourage, they can support other women who do not have the opportunity to purchase this at this time?
I think I've just said this. Even those of us living abroad, we contribute money to go and build schools. We contribute money to go and dig roads. Contributing money to buy some boxes of parts and sending to the villages to which we belong is sometimes more beneficial because you dig a road for the woman to carry plantains through it. But women can be infected. That infection can even lead them to their own deaths. And so this is something very basic, which I think most of our civil society, call them village development associations, just ignore. It's not expensive. And then again, the population is identifiable. If you in the London or Germany or the US, you send 2 boxes of that thing, which is not even much money, to the village community. The village has women leaders. It's not every woman who will go and stand in the street and say, I'm menstruating, but she will know how to go to the mother who is in charge of those parts in the village and take a few for herself. It's not something that they will take and eat. Now, you use a few for a few days, and the menstrual cycle is over. I continue with your life. So I think as civil society, that prop of development should take this as a special appeal to them that it is neglect. If they do it, it is better than just forgetting about it. Because again, these women are our mothers, they are our sisters, they are our daughters. And so not doing it through the civil society has just been a question of neglect or an oversight, I think. We should emphasize that that should be done. Over to you.
Oh, thank you very much, Barrister Mbeseha. Indeed, this is a critical situation because these are our mothers, our sisters, our children. This is a critical situation that should not be neglected. Well, let's move on to this report. We have this report. Colonial Zambo Nguema, Etienne Celestin, La Republic du Cameroon's Legion commander deployed to Midland Zone, died in a fatal truck accident which occurred yesterday. The deceased vehicle collided with a truck on New Road in Bamenda. Appointed in March 2024, Zambo had been oppressing the Midland Zone for over a year. Yesterday being May 27th, a tragic accident caused by brake failure led to the death of Zambo Nguema Etienne Celestin, a colonial figure whose oppressive rule had long troubled the Ambazonian community. Many residents are now expressing relief and excitement at the end of his command. The oppressor's leadership was marked by a heavy-handed colonial military operations that often targeted protests, instilling fear and resentment among locals. Witnesses described the chaotic scene of the accident with some feeling that his death could be a turning point for the community. Historically, the colonial government has sent troops to Ambazonia with specific orders to suppress dissent. Now, way back in 2016, Joseph Wilbur had raised concerns in Decries when he highlighted similar abuses faced by the Ambazonian people in the area. Now, due to the ineptitude of the colonial regime, emergency services were limited as usual and bystanders rushed to help the injured. Their efforts, however, were in vain as the oppressor lost his life at the scene. The disease had been subjugating the Bamenda population to violence since he got to Ambazonia in March 2024 when he was appointed by a presidential decree from neighboring La Republic du Cameroon. While colonial authorities have confirmed the circumstances of his death and are now claiming to investigate the mechanical issues of the truck involved, Ambazonians continue to celebrate and express hopes for a new beginning free from oppression. Well, Barrister Mbeseha, how do you feel about this report? This man has been a terror, an oppressor to the Ambazonian people, and his death have sparked wide jubilation and excitement. What's your thought on this?
Well, my thoughts are a little bit different. Yes, this guy was a terrorist. He terrorized our people. He killed people who were innocent. He shot them and killed them. But that's not the issue. The issue is that this man is dead in an accident. Emphasizing this now because it's a colonial. Can we remember how many people fall every day because of road accidents in that country? Under a year ago, 6 7 months ago, what this thing there in the Undaunted call a Falezichan, people perished, they don't even know the numbers. People just died. And so when we talk about insecurity, it is not about the war alone. Insecurity includes road safety, includes health, as we've just mentioned, women's menstrual issue. That's all insecurity, whose responsibility lies in the hands of government. And so this man died. Now they are claiming that they are going to investigate the technical of the truck. They might. But what does that make? What difference does that make? How did the truck find itself on the road in the first place if it is declared to have been defective? Even the truck was good. Was the road good enough for people to circulate there? If that truck had fallen on you or me, or my father or my sister or your child, Would that even make news? We make no news because you're nobody. But we're here crying because this man is a colonel. It's better that he died because at the very least his family will have better pension for him. He will pay a lot of money to his family for dying there. But if we're you or your father or mine, nobody will even think about you. They will not even give you a coffin to bury him or her. Why? Because we're not part of the system. So there's a lot of insecurity, including road safety is part of the security. If they don't verify vehicles to be sure they are roadworthy, if they don't fix the road to avoid natural accidents, then there's something wrong. And this made me remember in southern Cameroon in those days, in the 60s, there was something off the road. They verified vehicles. Even when your car was driving, if they discovered that it was technically defective, they put a mark there, OR, off the road. That vehicle will stop there wherever it is found. It will tow from there to the shop until it is repaired, until it is made roadworthy. Because a bad car is as dangerous to the driver, to the occupants, as to the people who are on the ground. And so again, this is a sign of lack of governance. Again, how many people are falling just in that northern thing they call Northwest? Or just in Bamenda town? How many people are falling in Mamfe, in Biya, everywhere because of bad roads? Because of bad state of vehicles. Who is supposed to check that? It's the government. So they would, everything, of course, we already agreed. Anything in Cameroon which is called investigation, forget about it. Why are they going to investigate? This man is dead. It might be the driver himself is dead. What else are they going to investigate? And if the investigator found out the vehicle was not roadworthy, what are they going to do? They're going to resurrect the corpse of the guy who is dead? Or to resurrect the carcass of the car? Nothing that is selling after the market. These are things that should have been done in advance. What are they expected to do in advance? To put the roads that are worthy plying. To make sure the vehicles on those roads are roadworthy. To make sure the drivers driving those vehicles are competent. And so when you come after the market, you're selling after the market, it's not worth the price. That is the reason for one of the reasons for which we fight. In a true Ambazonia, these things will not happen. If you drive from Bamenda to Bafoussam, where on the road do you find, for example, stop sign? There's nothing like that. If you are used to Southwest, if you drive from Biya to Limbe or to Tico, the road is full of schools. Where on the road have you ever found a sign to show there's a school here? So the driver, when they approach, they can cross children. That's part of road safety. And we've seen children crossing the road. Because the driver might not even know that there is a school there. How many drivers respect road speed limits? They don't. Because there's no penalty. The only penalty is that they will give you 500 francs or 1,000 francs to a policeman, a gendarme standing by the corner of the road blowing a whistle. And so that's the reason for which we fight. This total disorder in everything, including transportation, road safety, health safety, as we just spoken a few minutes ago, is what we fight for. We will put hospitals, at the very least, the basic ones, as near the people as possible. They will take care of them. Again, they will take care of these women issues. We'll put better roads. And if the roads are not very good, there will be signs on the road to indicate that this is a hill. Speed limit, 10 kilometers an hour. That is part of the road safety. I will make sure that everybody who is driving, who is walking, is safe. Will not come out to cry because the minister is dead in an accident. Because the minister is only one. The minister is not bigger than your child, than your baby, than whoever dies. But we'll make noise again, as I'm saying here. Because this man was a colonel. It's unheard of to hear that a colonel is dead. But everything put together again, a colonel who dies in an accident is better at the end of the day than you or me, because at least you'll be paid for. The administration has a lot of money to compensate their family, to set them up. And so this is a mark of total failure of a governance, total absence of governance, irresponsibility which should not exist in a country. Over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Barrister Mbeseha. When we look at the gross increase in insecurity in Bamenda, now this draws us to this particular critical fact. We understand that historically the colonial government sends troops to Ambazonia with very specific instructions to suppress dissent. And from the report, Joseph Jakiri in 2016 has raised concerns over this level of abuses on Ambazonians. Could you lend your voice to that?
Well, you see, everything is possible in Cameroon. It's not just a speculation. They send their troops there with specific definition of what they have to do, none of which is legal. They send their troops there to shoot and kill anybody they suspect to be an Ambazonian. They send their troops there to adopt people and take money from them for not having so-called identity cards. They send their troops there to do and undo, to rape women and go unpunished. And I've given these examples. This crisis started in Biya, in the Biya University, because a certain woman invited the police who came to the campus, raped the students, did all what they did to those students. Where is that woman today? Instead of dismissing her, she has found herself promoted to a minister. She became a full minister in spite of all what she did to children. One wonder if this woman had children. If she didn't have children, at least her cousins, her uncles, her aunties have. And so promoting criminality is part and parcel of the regime. Punishing the wrong thing, especially against Ambazonians, is not within their DNA. They would rather encourage it than to punish the wrongdoers. And so, again, we found ourselves in the wrong spot. We should never have been there, but we're forced to be there. And the only solution is for us to fight and fight until we get out of the mess. It's unacceptable, it's wrong, and they know that it's wrong. And so they do everything and anything possible to punish whoever calls himself or herself Ambazonian. We've not forgotten not too long ago, there's a guy in Biya there, called himself Moja Moja. He was the chief, promoting and giving arms to catch women, pregnant women, lock them up, and be punished because they were once the girlfriends of a suspected Ambazonian fighter. Where else on earth does this happen? He was in government arms. Nobody questioned him. And so, again, the cup is too full. The examples are too numerous even for us to mention here. Over to you.
Yeah, Barrister Mbeseha, and that brings us to asking the question if these perpetrators will be brought to book. Well, we'll be moving over to this report still in Bamenda with the rise in insecurity. The colonial governor decries security situation in Bamenda. Now, the colonial governor Adolphe Lele El Afrique of Ambazonia in what they call Northwest region has acknowledged the restive nature of his jurisdiction, Bamenda. Now, he made the statement in a meeting he presided over in Bamenda on May 27, which was yesterday. The governor's comments come amid growing concerns about the security situation in Bamenda, which has been plagued by unrest as a result of the 8-year and counting war in Ambazonia. The city's residents have been vocal about their grievances, including poor infrastructure, lack of economic opportunities, and perceived marginalization by the colonial government. Now, in an evaluation meeting of May 27th in Bamenda, Colonial Governor Lele El Afrique acknowledged that Bamenda has been a challenging region to govern, citing the restive nature of its inhabitants. He highlighted the security concerns, stating that there have been cases of kidnapping for ransom, extorting money from passengers, as well as targeted attacks on innocent civilians in some village settings. Now, he was not bold enough to acknowledge the excesses of the colonial army on the population. Well, the colonial governor noted that the La République du Cameroon government is working to address the underlying issues driving the unrest, but did not provide specific details on the report. Now, residents of Bamenda have welcomed the colonial governor's acknowledgement of the city's challenges. Unlike other colonial authorities who claim that there is normalcy, however, they are skeptical about the colonial government's ability to deliver on its promises. Many believe that the colonial government needs to take concrete actions to address the city's infrastructure and economic development needs, and just increasing the colonial military presence in Bamenda. Now, also, the colonial governor's statement is a step in the right direction, we may say, but those in Yaoundé should be this honest also. The colonial government must engage in meaningful dialogue with Ambazonians and work to address their grievances. By doing so, it can help to restore peace and stability and also promote economic development. Well, this is another situation of security in Bamenda and other cities of Ambazonia, which remains a pressing concern. Now, the colonial governor's acknowledgement of the city's challenges is a positive development, Barrister Mbeseha, but then it remains to be seen whether the colonial government will actually do the needful. Let's hear from you, sir.
Well, asking the same question, having the same answers. Shall they ever do anything to avoid this? No. The colonial governor is a pretender. There's a lot of insecurity in Bamenda, just like it is anywhere else in Ambazonia. But it's not just because they don't know. Crying it foul is just a lie. They are pretenders. There are situations that they could, even as administrators, stop. But they're not stopping. We cannot talk about Yaoundé because that governor sitting there is Yaoundé. What they call themselves chef d'etat. He enjoys a presidential decree. And I'm sure he has a direct line that he can talk to the president if he so desires. Not only him, his sous-prefects and all those people there, they have presidential decrees. That's why they call themselves chef d'etats. They can do whatever thing they want to do. And let me just give you by way of example. This man was crying in May. And that's the same May that the governor agreed to send their troops to go to Bamwi and Bambili and adopt children in the name of so-called Kale Kale. Why are they getting out of Kale Kale? Is that legal? Absolutely not. The first thing they ask from you when they catch you in Kale Kale is to produce an identity card. Where is the law that you should sleep in bed with an identity card? Even if there was a law, he knows, and everybody knows in Cameroon that getting an ID card by itself is an uphill task. They are not documents they get easily. But he allows them to go and do it. They catch people, go lock them up, extort money from them, punish them, lock them up, and go freely. So what is he talking about? Yes, his report is true. There is insecurity in Bamenda. There is insecurity in Biya. There's insecurity in Ambazonia. Any administrator who does not acknowledge these facts is just lying. They're pretenders. There's insecurity everywhere in what they call Northwest and Southwest. And they know the causes of the insecurity. The insecurity is there because of the war. And to end the war must end. It will only end when they come to address the root causes. Because ideology, you do not fight an ideology with weapons. What will they do to that woman? In the order, Ambazonian children and women, they see them dancing with the Ambazonian flag. That's an ideology in them. When they grow up, they will know that there's an Ambazonian. And so if they don't fight today, they'll fight tomorrow. If somebody had told them, not even them, somebody had told a who died quite some time ago, that he was doing what he did in 1961, what he did in 1972, was going to lead to this war, he would have not believed it. But because of the ideology of the survivor of a people, instead of trying to screw us up in the so-called Forman Conference, instead of forcefully abolishing the federation, which never even exists in principle, he thought everything was over. But ideology did not die. Again, I've said this before. Those young men and women who are fighting today and dying, very few of them, if any, was born in the 1960s. But the ideology was born in 1961. It has survived many generations. And then thinking that, for example, locking off Bermukong in 1970 in order to get the federation abolished, catching Goji Dinka and he escaping into exile, causing Mr. Ngumne to escape to London and die there in exile, did not end the spirit of the revolution. And so what they are doing will not end it. The only thing that will end this thing once and for all, that will save their own lives, their own colonial colonists coming to die in a land that they did not even know, and many others, is a return to the conference table, address the root causes of the problem, and let the chips fall where they belong. Until they do this, the other thing is pretentiousness. Giving me money, bribing me money and with money, not to come and talk about it, it's not going to solve the problem. I will take the money, I will eat and die. The children who come after me will tell the same story. And so it's not a solution. Catching you and locking you up for calling yourself Amber, killing you or doing whatever thing, will not end the thing. Again, let me end this segment by asking, where is Moja that is sponsored? Who caught pregnant women? Who killed people with impunity? Put snakes, wrap snakes around his neck to show his invincibility. Where is he today? Has the war ended? No. And so, what they do, thinking that they can end Ambazonia's struggle by dining with diaper-wearing people like Mosonge, like Tabe Tando, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. They better come back to their senses, address the root causes of the problem, because, as Mr. Weber says, Cameroon will never exist as it is until they solve the Anglophone problem. Anglophone problem to Mr. Weber is what we call Ambazonia. So there's no way escaping from it. Let Biya die today. That's not an issue. Ahijo did it and died, and the problem survived. Ahijo's death this evening or tomorrow will not end the struggle. And so, pretending not to understand the problem is not the solution. Looking for your own people to solve the problem your own way is not the solution. You will solve the problem with the appropriate people through the right process. And then you'll be safe, and Ambazonia will be safe, and hopefully we shall coexist as neighbors, good neighbors, not enemies. Because as neighbors, there are moments that you will need us, there are moments you will need you. That's the principle of good neighborliness. Neighborhood. Neighborliness is not created by us. We were born neighbors because you share a boundary with us. Sometimes we even share the same stream drinking, but we are two different families. Over to you.
Oh, that's an elaborative one, Barrister Mbeseha. Right there, we believe that, and we could rightly say that the Ambazonian spirit is such a force, and they cannot be silenced, and they will not be silenced. Their voices keeps echoing, and we believe that that very time where this cause comes to an end will definitely come. Well, moving on to this report, we have this report of President Trump pushing so much pressure on Paul Biya. Now, a Cameroonian-born businessman naturalized as an American Fred after 32 days in Colonial prison. After more than a month of detention, this arrest has sparked a diplomatic crisis between Yaoundé and Washington. However, the Cameroonian-born American MBA Ndewa Leotard has been released from Kentonge Central Prison. Now, this release comes following pressure exerted by the United States Department on La République du Cameroon authorities. The story begins in November 2024 when the Roge Ndewa and his partner Amba Murray, both American nationals, arrived at La République du Cameroon to settle temporarily. The couple paid a 2 million CFA franc deposit for the rental of a property located in the upscale Bastos neighborhood in Yaoundé, colonial political capital of La République du Cameroon, belonging to Magnus Ekomo, La République du Cameroon's ambassador to France. Now, the transaction, made with housekeeper Mafo Stephanie, turned sour when the owners ultimately refused to rent the house to them, despite the deposits being paid. Now, faced with this situation, Amba Murray posted a video on social media denouncing what she considered an attempted fraud. What was supposed to remain a civil dispute took a legal turn 5 months later, in March 2025, when Colonial Ambassador Ekomo and his wife filed a defamation lawsuit against the American couple. Now, on March 7, 2025, the two Americans were summoned to Yaoundé Colonial Central Police Station Number 1. While Amba Murray was quickly released, her partner, the Roge Ndewa, suffered a different fate. Now, despite his American nationality, he was brought before the Yaoundé Colonial Court of First Instance and then imprisoned in Kondenge prison. Now, the same prison where Ambazonian political detainees are also caged. Now, several elements of this case raises questions about the regularity of the proceedings. First, the 5-month delay between the alleged facts and the initiation of legal proceedings contrasts with the prosecution's invocation of a flagrant offense. The difference in treatment between the two defendants, both of whom are American nationals, raises questions about the real motives for this detention. Some observers see it as an instrumentalization of justice for personal gain, similar to the illegal detention of Ambazonians currently in Kontenge. Now, the detention of an American citizen in conditions deemed irregular did not fail to attract the attention of the United States Department. According to our sources, the case quickly rose through the diplomatic ranks, providing tense exchanges between Washington and Yaoundé. The American authorities expressed their concern regarding the treatment of their nationals, demanding his immediate release and respect for his consular rights. Now, faced with growing diplomatic pressure and the risks of deteriorating bilateral relations, the La République du Cameroon authorities finally relented. After 32 days of detention, the Roguin-Doua was released, marking the end of an episode that highlighted the dysfunctions of La République du Cameroon colonial judicial system. Now, this case illustrates once again the abuses that occur when personal interests interfere with the administration of justice. It also raises questions about the independence of the judiciary from political and diplomatic influence. Now, beyond the Roguin-Doua's release, this case could have repercussions for relations between Cameroon and the United States. It also highlights the limits of diplomatic impunity and the need for La République du Cameroon representatives abroad to respect international standards in their dealings with foreign citizens. Now, for Magnus Ikomo, the colonial ambassador in Paris, this case represents a serious setback that could jeopardize his diplomatic career. The alleged instrumentalization of the colonial justice system to solve a private dispute raises questions about his professionalism and respect for diplomatic convention. Now, this case right here adds to a long list of cases in which the La République du Cameroon's justice system is accused of serving particular interests rather than the rule of law. The release of the Roguin-Doua, although it puts an end to an embarrassing episode, should not obscure the fundamental questions about the functioning of La République du Cameroon colonial justice system that is keeping many Ambazonians unlawfully in dungeons and the protection of the rights of litigants. Well, Barrister Mbeseha, there are several Ambazonian detainees at the Kontenge Central Prison yet to be released. And this draws questions about the kind of treatment and dysfunctionality of La République du Cameroon's court system. What do you say about that?
Well, I think I've said this before, that the Republic of Cameroon is a lawless state, absolutely a lawless state, locally and internationally. You see, the case of Mr. Ndewa, which we are trying to discuss now, is an exceptional case. I think if Mr. Ndewa got his freedom at the end of the day, it is because he has some money. Yeah, he was a rich man with renting houses in Bastos. So he had some money. And his own case has attracted attention. Because I know Ambazonians, at least Mr. Ndewa, back to his story, he had a case, a civil case, which he sought to transform it into a criminal case by locking him up, which by itself is illegal, it's wrong. But there are so many Ambazonians that I know who are in Kontenge, who committed no crime. They are also Americans, they are also European citizens. They simply went to Cameroon and they were identified with something connected to Ambazonia. And they caught them and they are in Kontenge. Some have gone there, some have even died there. They've sought consular protection and they didn't even get. And so this is a peculiar case. Luckily, this guy is free. We must thank him for getting his freedom. But again, the larger context, as you have said, Cameroon is an illegal state. All what they do is illegality. You have talked about people being detained there. We don't need to go far to say that among those hundreds detained in Kontenge, there are people that are adopted from Nigeria without in in a warrant. They abducted them, carried them across the border lines, and they kept them in Kondengi. There are cases there where they adopted people from Bamenda. Mr. Karim, Abdul Karim is just one. And two in the Yawande and sent to Kondengi. These are all adoptions. These are all criminal acts of the state. Why? I've had the opportunity to say, if somebody committed a crime in Bamenda, is they not caught in Bamenda? Why must you lead him across the borders to go and put him in Kondengi? If he must go to prison, is there no prison in Bamenda? Is there no prison in Biya? Why should he go through all this? And so, this is criminality of the highest level. I would thank the American State Department for doing what it did. But they need to do more, because justice should be done everywhere where it is seen not to be done. The same State Department of Cameroon, of the United States, under Trump, they're having what we call the Kansas City 3. Kept there for 3 years. Where is the justice there? Is it because Cameroon was doing something wrong? The same thing should never be repeated in the United States. Detaining people at the Kansas City 3 without trying them, without bringing them to court, it's as unjust as detaining Mr. Ndewa in Kondengi for a crime that he did not commit. So let it be replicated, not just by what they do in Cameroon to release one or two people. They should implement the same policy here, because injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. If the Kansas City 3 must suffer the injustice of the American justice system, it is as bad as Mr. Ndewa, who was put under the injustice system of Cameroon. And so we can only appeal to the State Department. They have their eyes open on every injustice, both at home and abroad. Any injustice done to an American citizen, whether naturalized or born, is injustice. Whether it is in the United States, or it is abroad, whether it is in Cameroon or in China. And so these things should apply. But again, summarily to put, Cameroon is no respecter of any law. They don't respect their own laws in the first place. Talk less of foreign laws. So their diplomatic niceties have a very limited meaning. And so this is a rogue state that respects no law. This is a rogue state that will catch anybody. They were lucky to have survived. He might have died. I've known Ambazonians who died there, who came visiting from Europe, and they were caught just for being Ambazonians. And so this lawlessness must end. Again, that's one of the reasons why we fight. If you were Ambazonia and Ambazonia was taken to custody anywhere in the world, we will fight stronger. Because there are some rules in diplomatic circles. You lock up a foreign citizen, you catch a foreign citizen for anything. Consular requirements demand that you inform their consulate, inform the embassy. Even if they're going on trial, the embassy should know. Because the embassy of that country will provide defense for its own citizens. And so they are not doing this. They have never done it. We will do it in Ambazonia at the appropriate time. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Barrister Mbeseha. And your words, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. Well, this is where we'll let you go before we head into the rest of the news on tonight's Undaunted. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. And thank you for the amazing thoughts and perspectives you bring to the report.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, sir. And with this, we head on to the news across Africa. A South African woman has been sentenced to life in prison for kidnapping and trafficking her 6-year-old daughter, Jocelyn Smith. Her boyfriend, Jacqueline Apollis, and their friend, Stefano Van Rijn, received the same sentence. Jocelyn disappeared in February 2024 from her home in Saldanha Bay near Cape Town. Despite a large public search effort, the girl has not been found. The sentencing follows a 6-week trial that drew national attention. The judge, Nathan Erasmus, said he made no distinction between the roles each of the three played. On the human trafficking charge, you are sentenced to life imprisonment. On the kidnapping charge, you are sentenced to 10 years, he said, receiving loud applause from the courtroom. Raquel Kelly Smith, who is 35 years, Jocelyn's mother, did not testify during the trial. Judge Erasmus said the trial showed no remorse and offered no reason for a lighter sentence. The sentencing took place at a local community center to allow residents to attend. The three showed no emotion as their sentences were read. Jocelyn's grandmother, Amanda Smith Daniel, said before the sentencing that no punishment could bring her granddaughter back. She pleaded with her daughter to tell the truth. Now, over 30 witnesses testified in court, revealing troubling details about Jocelyn's life before her disappearance. A neighbor, Laurentia Lombard, said Smith had confessed to selling her daughter to a traditional healer known as Sangoma. The alleged buyer reportedly wanted Jocelyn for her eyes and skin. A local pastor also testified that Smith had previously talked about selling her children for 20,000 rand. That's $1,100 each, but was willing to accept less than $275. Now, Jocelyn's teacher told the court that Smith had said her daughter was already on a ship inside a container headed to West Africa. Smith and her accomplice did not testify or call any witnesses in their defense. A social worker described Smith as manipulative and said she appeared to be the mastermind behind the crime. However, Western Cape police say the search for Jocelyn is still active also. Community members expressed anger ahead of sentencing, saying the group deserved the harshest penalty. Now, Jocelyn's disappearance has had a lasting impact on the community, with many residents still in shock and mourning. Also tonight, in another development, over to Namibia. Namibia holds first Genocide Remembrance Day, renews call for German reparations. Namibia has commemorated its first Genocide Remembrance Day, honoring the tens of thousands of Hero and Nama people killed by German colonial forces in the early 1900s in what is widely regarded as the first genocide of the 20th century. At a solemn ceremony on Wednesday in the gardens of Namibia's parliament, President Netumbo Nandi Ndaitwah renewed the country's call for reparations, marking a powerful moment in the nation's ongoing push for justice. Let's take a look.
People of African descent through reparations. This theme is talking to the engagement between the two governments, the Namibian government and the German government, and asking the two governments to conclude the negotiation on genocide, apology, and reparation.
The president's speech is one of acknowledgement and comfort to the people of Namibia due to the level of genocide they faced. She encourages the people to remain committed as a nation until ultimate conclusion is reached. Now, the president leads a ceremonial candle alongside Vice President Lucia Witbo as part of the remembrance event, which were attended by about 1,000 people, including the German ambassador to Namibia. The occasion included a moment of silence, traditional songs, and speeches honoring the victims. Meanwhile, Germany colonized Namibia, then German Southwest Africa from 1884. Now there's a history to 1915 and officially acknowledged the genocide in 2021, following nearly a decade of negotiations. However, no formal reparations agreement has been signed, and descendants of the Hero and Nama say they were excluded from the talks. Now, Germany has pledged over $1.1 billion in development aid to support affected communities over 30 years, but it maintains the funds do not constitute reparations. In a statement released earlier this week, the German government reaffirmed its moral and political responsibility and stressed the importance of reconciliation. The genocide began after the Hero tribe rebelled against German colonizers in January 1904, with the Nama tribe joining in 1905. German forces responded with brutal force, driving survivors into the desert and establishing concentration camps where thousands perished. Also in October 1904, General Lothar von Trotha issued an infamous extermination order declaring that every hero with or without a gun, with or without a livestock would be shot. And between 1904 and 1908, at least 60,000 hero and 10,000 Nama were killed. Many were subjected to forced labor, starvation, and inhumane conditions in camps. Others were beheaded, and their skulls were sent to Germany for so-called scientific research aimed at proving racial superiority. Meanwhile, Namibia has demanded the return of these remains since 2008, and Germany has conducted ceremonial repatriations in 2011 and 2018. Now, hero activist Israel Kaunat-GK, who leads the movement, No Amnesty on Genocide, called it a scandal that no official genocide memorial had been held since Namibia's independence in 1990. Now, Kaunat-GK emphasized that true justice must include reparations and the return of ancestral land still held by descendants of German settlers. May 28th was chosen for the commemoration because it marks the day in 1908 when the concentration camps were officially closed. While taking you news across the globe. Elon Musk has announced his departure from the Trump administration, and in a brief but highly publicized role in Washington aimed at shrinking the size of the United States government funds. But the billionaire says the project he led, called the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, is far from over. In a post on his social media platform X, Musk thanked President Donald Trump for the chance to serve as a special government employee, a temporary role he began earlier this year. Musk wrote that the DOGE mission will only strengthen over time as it becomes a way of life throughout the government. Take a look.
So, I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the DOGE team is doing.
I actually thought that when this big, beautiful bill came along. I mean, everything he's done on DOGE gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big, or it can be beautiful. But I don't know if it can be both.
The interview right there, although he says it was expected since federal law allows such roles for only 130 days annually. Musk's departure comes just a day after he publicly criticized Trump's new budget proposal. Now, in an interview with CBS on Sunday morning, Musk called the bill disappointing, claiming it would significantly increase the federal deficit. Now, was this a final straw? Could the tension between Musk's cost-cutting goals and Trump's spending plans have made his position untenable? Musk initially vowed to cut $2 trillion in federal spending, but later scaled back the goal to $150 billion. Now, under DOGE, approximately 260,000 federal employees reportedly lost their jobs or accepted voluntary exit packages. However, the cuts weren't without consequences. Some federal judges blocked the layoffs, ruling that several dismissals had been unlawful. Shockingly, even employees in critical sectors such as the United States nuclear program were mistakenly let go. This raises a pressing question: can radical reform be truly effective without compromising national stability and public trust? Musk eventually acknowledged the backlash. DOGE is just becoming the whipping boy for everything, he said in a Washington Post interview. Something bad would happen anywhere and we would get blamed for it, even if we had nothing to do with it. Now, Musk's time in government coincided with a tough period for Tesla. Sales dropped by 13% in early 2025, marking the largest decline in the company's history. The stock also plummeted by 45% before recovering slightly. Activists have staged protests, vandalized Tesla's showroom, and called for nationwide boycotts. In response, the United States Attorney General Pam Bondi labeled the vandalism as domestic terrorism. Meanwhile, at an economic forum in Qatar, Musk stated he would remain Tesla's CEO for the next 5 years. He also announced he would reduce political donations after reportedly spending $300 million backing Trump and other Republican candidates in 2024. And this draws us to this fact: Elon Musk's exit marks the end of a chapter in the United States political experimentation. But it also opens the door for new questions if private sector billionaires should play major roles in public governance. And at what cost to democracy, accountability, and corporate ethics. Well, moving on, in another development on climate issues, a resident of the Swiss village of Blatin were in shock on Thursday after a massive chunk of glacier unleashed a wave of ice, mud, and rock that buried nearly 90% of their village, highlighting growing fears over climate change's impact on the Alps. The massive slide struck on Wednesday, engulfing much of the scenic village. Fortunately, all 300 residents had been evacuated earlier in May after scientists warned the mountain above the Berge Glacier was becoming unstable. Now, despite this earlier evacuation, a 64-year-old man remains missing. The rescue teams with sniffer dogs and drones continue to search for him on Thursday. Now, amid the wreckage, concerns are now rising over potential flooding. The landslide created a massive blockade nearly 2 kilometers wide that is now obstructing the river Lonza. This has caused a large lake to form, adding to the danger. Now, I don't want to talk just now. I lost everything yesterday. I hope you understand, said a middle-aged woman from Blatin seated alongside a church in the nearby village of Viola. Now, just a few rooftops were visible above the thick layer of mud and debris. Dust still hung in the air as helicopters cycled above Kleini's Nestorn Mountain, where the collapse began. Also, Martin Henzin, another resident, noted that villagers had been preparing for some kind of disaster, but not for this scale. However, experts warned that the immediate danger isn't over. The water from the river Lonza cannot flow down the valley because there is an enormous plug, said Rafael Mayoraz, a geologist for the canton. Speaking to Swiss broadcaster SRF, the worst case scenario is flooding. Also, Christian Hugel, a climate professor at the University of Zurich, said up to 1 million cubic meters of water are accumulating each day due to the blockade. As a precaution, some nearby villages have been partially evacuated. Now, the disaster has reignited concern about the melting alpine permafrost. Rising temperatures are causing once stable rock and gravel to shift, creating new and unpredictable mountain hazards. Now, the Berge Glacier had already been moving slowly downhill for years, pushed by shifting debris at higher elevations. This week's collapse, scientists believe, is a dramatic reminder of how the Alps are changing with devastating consequences. Well, and with that, we've come to the end of Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. But before we go, a recap of the prime headlines on Undaunted tonight. In tonight's Undaunted, we saw that Ambazonian women face menstrual health challenges amidst war. Bamenda's oppressor, Colonial Zambo Nguema, meets end. Also, Colonial Governor decries security situation in Bamenda. Also tonight, we took a look at American prisoner released as Biya bows to pressure from Trump's administration. And on African scene, South African mother, 2 others get life sentences for selling 6-year-old girl. Also, Namibia holds first Genocide Remembrance Day, renews call for German repatriations. And in the rest of the news across the globe, Elon Musk quits Trump's government team but says Dodge will still go on. Now, glacier collapse devastates Swiss village as climate threat looms. And that is all on Undaunted tonight, bringing into the news untold stories. On behalf of the entire Undaunted newsroom, we say thank you for joining. We leave you with the ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless.